Well, today is August 16th, 2022, and that means that I have had my locks for 8 years to the day. So I guess I'll do a retwist, and since I get so many questions, maybe I'll answer a few questions. Let's get to it. Check that. You know what? I am still breaking the conditioning that comes with being a manicured locker. Normally, when it is your lock anniversary, you are kind of obliged to do a retwist. It's kind of like this unspoken thing. But you know what? It's my 8th year, and more importantly, I'm a semi-freeformer. And if I don't feel like doing a retwist, I'm not doing a retwist. So instead, I've washed my hair. The locks are clean, the hair is clean, the scalp is clean, it smells amazing, but it is wet. So instead, I'm gonna go for a walk and let the mirror dry. 2. Seven. Alright, so I am back from my 50-minute walk on this very beautiful, sunny, and quite breezy day, which helped to dry my locks. They're not completely dry, the tips are still a little bit moist, but they will definitely be dry by the time I go to bed tonight, which was my goal. Alright, so I want to say a couple of things. First, in terms of the poll last week, the majority of you were correct. From that day that I posted that poll, it was 8 days until today, my 8-year lock anniversary. So thank you to the majority of you who were correct. And then the second highest percentage, which was also 30-something% of you, knew that it was 8 years. It was my 8-year lock anniversary, but you were off in terms of the number of days, which, I'll let that slide. As for the rest of you, you guys need to start paying attention or something. I don't know. But no, thank you all for participating with that poll. The other thing that I wanted to say is that once I got back, I sprayed my locks with a mixture of vitamin E oil and rose water, okay? Just to add some oil back to my locks, since I did a thorough cleansing as I used shampoo, 2 different types of shampoo, a total of 3 times. So the cleansing shampoo I used twice, and then the conditioning shampoo I used the 3rd time, okay? Hey, if you are enjoying this video, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you are notified every single time I upload. How about that? So yeah, it needed a little bit, but as you see, the locks are shining and they're healthy. As you know, because I said it before, I didn't do a retwist, even though you can see my scalp. So maybe finally after 8 years, my locks are starting to become trained a little bit. No, not really. They still do what they want. Let's keep it real. But, it's not as bad as it used to be. Okay, so now, as promised, I'm going to answer a couple of questions and then I'm going to get out of here, because it's my 8-year lock anniversary and I'm happy that I have had locks for 8 years, but it's really not that big of a deal to me anymore. I've never really been into length checks. I feel like we institute all these different things to do, which kind of can set a person up for like failure. If your locks are so many inches long at this point, then when someone watches your video and their hair isn't that long and they've had their hair for longer or their locks for longer, then they start to feel bad. Like, none of it matters. And I know I'm a little bit biased because my locks are longer now, but I've put my time in. I've put in 8 years of having these bad boys, right? So I get to not care about it. I still love my locks, I do. And I still understand newer people to the lock journey being excited about the lock journey and having long locks and stuff. But it's not that big of a deal for me anymore. Pretty much I'm just coming on here to show you my progress. All right, questions time. 10. This question comes from Mahogany Hall. Will my ends close up on their own, or should I manually do them? First of all, I'm just gonna say I'm a fan of you letting your Locs do them themselves. To me, that's kind of like part of having Locs and being on a Loc journey, watching your hair form itself. Of course, you interject, you intercede when necessary, but when you don't have to, don't. But she goes on to say, my Loc journey started a little different than most. I started my Locs from soft Locs. Full disclosure, I'm not exactly sure what she means by soft Locs. If she's referring to like relaxed hair that has lost its ability to kink up and curl, and so it's just soft, then okay, we'll go with that. I let my hair lock and then cut the soft Loc off once my hair got to a length I was comfy with. So some of my ends are sealed and some aren't. Some are just open, so to speak. It's been a little over a year since I've started the Loc journey, but with soft Locs. Been about 4 months since I've had the soft Locs cut off. So yeah, I don't know what soft Locs are, but if it is what I'm thinking it is, where you have relaxed hair, you know, it's not natural and it's lost its ability to like kink up, then yeah, that could be problematic when it comes to your hair locking up, when it comes to matting, because it's not curling and locking up, right? So if you want, yeah, you can continue doing what you have been doing, letting your hair grow out a little bit and then snipping the ends, that softer hair part, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you mean something else by the term soft Locs, like it's your natural hair, then I say just wait. And please let me know in the comment section, somebody, what soft Locs actually refers to, because as I said, I don't know what that means exactly. The next question comes from Gabo509. This person says, I love your videos. Thank you. I have a question about interlocking. I sweat a lot and my Locs get puffy. Should I switch to interlocking? So it depends. It depends on what you want. Does the puffiness bother you? See, for me, it doesn't bother me. I'm on a Loc journey and I know that that's part of it. So I guess you have to ask yourself, how much does having puffy Locs bother you? And if it bothers you a lot, then yeah, you can entertain the idea of switching to interlocking. Reading on, it says, but the thing is that I have thick Locs and I'm willing to keep a thicker look, but I'm scared that interlocking would thin out my Locs over time. Thank you. All right, so I understand the conundrum because you have thick Locs and you've heard that when you interlock, it can, you know, make your Locs thinner. And that's true because it's a tighter knot. You know, it's like someone applying force to create a knot within your Loc versus your hair just matting up on its own. So of course it's going to be tighter. There is a difference between thinning Locs and thin Locs, right? When you interlock, especially if you go from retwisting, which is what I assume you're doing currently, to interlocking, then the interlock section of your Loc will naturally be thinner because, as I said, it's tighter knots. It's a tighter series of knots, okay? But that doesn't mean that that hair is in danger of breaking off and therefore thinning. Now, if you want your Locs, and it sounds like you do, you want them to remain thick and you want them to be congruent, then it sounds like interlocking probably wouldn't be the best choice because there will be a discrepancy in terms of the look between the areas where you interlocked and the areas where you did whatever method you're currently doing, which I assume is retwisting. So once again, it goes back to you asking yourself, how much does the puffiness bother you? See, for me, it seems like having the puffiness will complement the fact that I have thick Locs. I'm speaking for you. Speaking about your Locs, my Locs aren't thick, but you know, it's like if I had thick Locs, then it seems like it would only like help to enhance that voluminous look and it would be a good thing. So yeah, just ask yourself, you know, what it is that you really want in terms of look, and you know, ask yourself what it is that you're really comfortable with. If the puffiness really bothers you, then yeah, entertain some other method that will reduce that, okay? But you gotta just ask yourself the tough questions and then make a decision based on what you discover. The next question comes from IEYE. Person says, I'm using black castor oil and taking really good care of my hair by wearing a non-tight bonnet and spray oils occasionally to repair new growth into 3 of my locks that was experiencing thinning. Before I go to my lock lady in a couple weeks to repair my thinning locks. Am I doing anything wrong or am I on the right track? So I'll just say it sounds like you are on the right track. I mean, you're wearing a satin bonnet, you're covering your hair, and that bonnet is not too tight, so it's not in danger of pulling any of the strands out of your scalp, so that's good. I'm not exactly sure how the spraying of oils helps to repair the new growth. I'm not sure what you mean, like was your hair not growing because there wasn't sufficient oil at your scalp? Be it as it may, whatever is the case, you're definitely not hurting the new growth by spraying oils because you said occasionally, so you're not clogging the pores of your scalp. Okay, so I would say, yeah, you're definitely on the right track. Keep up the good work, and when you go to your lock lady, make sure that you guys are on the same page, meaning make sure she knows the type of lock journey that you're on and how you want her to maintain your hair, because if you don't, then obviously the loctician is going to do what they think is best and see fit. Okay, and that's not always a good thing, just saying. All right, moving on to the next question. Comes from Cornelius Chinwekpe Bono. Sorry if I mispronounced that. It says, how often should you retwist your baby love? Yeah, this is another one of those questions where it's preference, right? I can't tell you how often to retwist your locks. It depends on what type of locks you have. Do you have freeform? Never retwist them. Do you have semi-freeform? When you feel like retwisting them. Do you have manicure locks? You got to pick a frequency and stick with it. So every 1 month, every 2 months, or you can even alternate, 1 month and then every 2 months and then every 3 weeks and then every 2 months. But there is a certain consistency in terms of like you just retwisting your hair. It's not just whenever you feel like it. So it just depends on you and the type of look you're going for with your locks and the type of lock journey that you're on. If you're asking me how often I retwist, well, I'm a semi-freeformer. So as I said, I retwist whenever I feel like it. If I don't feel like retwisting, I don't retwist. And today is a perfect example of that. Some years I retwist twice a year, other years 3 times a year. 1 year I retwisted only once. It just depends, okay? So you got to figure out what, I hate saying this because it's so cliche and so common now, but you really do have to figure out what works best for you. All right, the final question comes from Worldwide Trends Special. Hey man, you're probably not going to reply. I hate that starting. First of all, why? Why would you assume that? You don't even know me. Because if you did, you know that I reply to all my comments. Ugh, that bugs me. Secondly, it just communicates like, like, woe is me. Like, have some confidence. You're gonna reply because this is a doggone good question. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, get it together. Don't. This is just for all of you. Don't preface your comment with that because that's just sad. All right. Moving on. But this is my 4th month having locks. Congrats on 4 months. And by the way, it's baby locks, yeah, because it's only 4 months. But the front is longer than the size of my head and the back of my head. Should I start over or just let it grow? Well, first of all, let me say that if you want to have a good chance of having locks of a comparable length, then you want to start out with a fro where your hair is roughly the same length all around, right? Okay. And if it's not a fro, just your hair, right? Roughly at the same length. I don't know if you started with some sort of fade or what, but yeah, that's helpful. The second thing I want to say is, even doing that, even if you start out with hair that's, roughly the same length all over, some people have hair like where the hair on the side grows longer or faster than the top, or the hair in the back grows faster than the sides. So there's no guarantee. Now, whether or not you should start over, it depends on how bad the discrepancy is and how much it bothers you. I, as you guys are probably learning, am someone who, I kind of accept my locks for what they are. I'm not the type of person that's gonna, you know, start, okay, just kidding, start again, just kidding, oh, I want this, start. And some people are, and I'm not knocking them, like some people have started their journeys 3 or 4 times just to get the perfect set of locks. But in my opinion, having locks is not about being perfect. It's just about having locks, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is I accept my locks for what they are and how they are. Now, obviously there are certain times when you need to take action. You know, if your locks are thinning out, then I don't just say, yeah, okay, my locks are thinning out, that's what locks do, snip, you know, like, no, like I'll, you know, enforce the braid technique with the quickness. But in terms of like just look, in terms of like aesthetics, things like that, or if they don't look exactly how I want them, those are things that I'm more prone to just accepting as is, and then just coming to love them as they are. Okay, so yet again, another personal preference question. It depends on how much it bothers you. Okay, if you're saying you have like high top locks right now and you let your sides grow out and you know there's a huge difference, then yeah, you might want to start over. You know, I've heard of a lot of high top lockers after several years of growing their locks say that they wish they had started out with a full set, you know, because they don't really get to see the true length that one gets, you know, with having locks that are, you know, when you start with a full set. Like they could have had locks for 8 years like me, but if we take a top lock, it only comes down to here, right? Because of that discrepancy. So they don't see 8 years of length. And this is 8 years of length, but the hair down here, you know, obviously hangs much lower. So yeah, it just depends. Okay, all right guys, well, this is my 8-year lock update, so you guys see what you can arrive at if you stick with it, which you definitely should. So with that, if you choose to love, do so unconditionally, because loving with conditions conditions the heart to not really love at all. This is Atreyu Locs, and I will see you next time. By the way, if you watch the entire video, then I want you to add up the numbers that you saw in this video and leave the total number. And by the way, don't just leave a comment with the number, because anybody can see that and just copy it without watching the video. I want you to strategically type the number out in your comments. So the number should be embedded in your comments. All right, I'm doing that for you because I want to know which of you are actually really the loyal followers. Okay, peace. 8